Hi there. They call me the governor, and I'm here with some fine folks to talk about the sister show of The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and the second episode of this new seventh season, Walking in a Radioactive Wonderland. No, wait, 6 hours, something like that. So let's get started. We have a new face here, which I'm very happy to see. Tomaj, tell us about you, and we'll get started.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Yeah, I'm Tomaj. I do reactions with my little sister over on Big Bro and Little Sis Reacts. We do a bunch of shows like comic book shows and Arrowverse shows, DC shows, Star Wars, stuff like that. So you can check us out over there.
And I noticed that your sister does not watch Walking Dead with you, though, so that's kind of good. Being a good big bro, huh?
Yeah, she's terrified of the show. She has been since she was a kid, so she will not watch it. Even now that she's a little older, she will not watch it at all. I'm like, okay, I've tried.
That's fine. It's not for everybody. It's all good. And Jaz, let everyone know who you are.
Hi, I'm Jaz. Obviously, you've seen my face on these panels before for quite a while. Yeah, and I just love The Walking Dead. I love talking about The Walking Dead. Let's get to talking about The Walking Dead.
All right. So just to say, Michonne is taking a bit of a break. She actually didn't realize we were still doing one last week. That's why she wasn't here. So, but she'll probably be back for finales and stuff, and maybe, the regular show. We'll see. But in the meantime, we have other reactors who are joining us. Jack had to work late last week. He might pop in. We're not gonna. If he does, that's great. But if he doesn't, it's all right. And we're gonna try to get some other reactors in here. And I'm sure we'll bring Tomaj back unless you really suck today. So don't suck. I don't think you're gonna suck. So in the chat we have Karina Banford. She's saying yay Tomaj. Well, Cleo
Hey, what's up, Karina?
Cleo says hey Tomaj, welcome.
Cleo.
And we have some people wanting Madison back. All right. And someone who also, Tariq Stedman, also really butchered the spelling of your name, Tomaj, but, is saying, what's up?
Yeah, it's not an easy one to spell.
T-O-L-A-J.
A lot of people use G, a lot of people add E's to it. I'm like, okay, yep.
It's all right. With a name like Kyle, you'd be amazed at what the Christmas cards that I used to get from my paper customers had. Ciel, Kiel. Like, what the hell, man? So let's talk about episode 2 of Fear, where we get to catch up with Morgan and Grace. And little Mo. They're calling him Mo because they can't call her little Morgan, because that would break their rule of only everyone having the distinct, easy names. So they have to call her Mo, even though her name is Morgan. And so we see, it's pretty clear that Grace was very disappointed that she didn't get her brains blown out at the end of last season. And I think we're seeing a bit of that. What was your initial impressions of this happy family? Jaz, you start us off.
To be honest, so I'm gonna start by saying this. Last year, Fear the last season was actually really good. I was really excited for it coming in the next season. So far, I've been kind of disappointed in it. Just I guess from my high expectations of how it was the last season. But oh my God! So that first scene. I think it started as the first 15 minutes. It just drove me bonkers because yes, I know babies cry and that little Mo's a baby, but like, did she have to cry constantly for 15 minutes straight? It drove me crazy, and it was really hard for me to focus on the episode and what was going on with, Grace and Morgan and what they were talking about. So I was just sitting there like, shut that kid up, please.
Well, just imagine
so it was actually really hard for me to get into it first.
Just imagine if you were in the sub with that crying baby.
Yeah, I've said many times on this show, I probably would not make it very far in the zombie apocalypse for many reasons, that being one of them.
Oh, babies are great. You put them on the ground, you run away, all the biters are attracted to the crying, you're good. All right,
There
that
you
was
go.
maybe a little too far,
There you
but
go.
this is why I have cats. My one daughter and even my adopted daughter didn't last too long.
Mhm.
Michonne owes me a penny. Even though we couldn't bring her back, I know that now. I know that now. And Lily had one job: watch Megan. And what happens? She gets bit. So I don't have a lot of luck with kids either. So yeah, Tomaj, your initial thoughts about this domestic bliss we witnessed?
I've actually kind of been really intrigued by fear because it's something we haven't seen before, a nuclear apocalypse. And I've loved the landscape that they've created. Like it's so eerie, they have the different like orangish, greenish landscape. So I've been enjoying that. And I don't really know much about like how radiation affects us like in the world around us. So I'm enjoying kind of learning a bit about this world. I don't know how like realistic the show is taking the whole thing because they keep taking their masks off and stuff. So I'm like, I don't know if we can actually do that, but I understand that, the actors can't have a mask on the whole time. That's no fun for anybody. Um, but I've kind of been enjoying it. And with the whole Morgan and Grace thing, I'm kind of glad they're not rushing like Grace's grief with losing Athena. Um, I mean, I was kind of surprised that she was against, raising this child. Like she was so like guarded, like she didn't want anything to do with the baby. But I understood, that it's not easy, losing a child. And I know my mom, before me, she had lost a child. So I went and talked to her, after Grace's episode, just trying to get her thoughts and what it was like. And she kind of felt similar to Grace. She blamed herself. She, felt like she overworked herself. And she tried again, about a year later, but, she was very cautious and didn't know if she was, I guess, ready or like if she'd be fit for motherhood or anything. So she had a really tough time. Plus, she waited until she was a little older. She was about 24 when she had me. So yeah, but it was really hard for her. So I really kind of felt with Grace because I related her to my mom. So yeah.
Actually, that brings up an interesting point because my mother, who is passed now, but she had actually had a miscarriage and lost a child very young before, and those were the two oldest. And after that, she held back a little bit from the rest of the kids because she was like, I mean, I'm sure it loosened up over time, but initially she was very guarded, expecting her kids to be gone. So it is understandable that she would be guarded, especially with this new child that was just delivered to them. And this whole landscape, I mean, you get too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bringing a child up in this landscape, it's like she's probably thinking the best thing that they could do is kill the child and kill each other. And, because it is going to be very hard. I mean, if you get too much radiation, you start, puking, diarrhea, hair loss. I mean, Morgan doesn't have to worry too much except the facial hair, but still, it's not going to be a happy thing. Then you're going to get sores. You're going to, and then you saw what happened to the foster parents later. But we're going to get to that. Yeah, Cleo says she was hungry. Well, she was hungry, but she was hungry, and when kids are hungry, they're going to cry. And I'm actually surprised the music actually helped with that. It was I'm going to talk later about the ironic part of that whole thing because of what they found at the end, but we'll get to that. It's like they go all this distance, and there you go. Karina says, "Oh wow, Tomaj, that's great. You talked to your mom about child loss." And Cleo says, "Penny was already dead. Michonne put her out of her misery." Yes, but
I mean,
at the time, it felt like my child, who Milton swore he was going to cure, was now beyond saving. So, shut up, Cleo. I grieved for my child because I did not know at the time that Michonne put a sword through the back of her head and through her mouth. I'm okay. I'm gonna deal with this. All right. Grime Girl 26 says Grace's actions were realistic. They were definitely realistic.
Yes.
And I think not only being guarded from that, but her going out there and like her first instinct was to hide from those people. But then she's like, you can rob me, you can take everything. I don't care. I don't even want to be here. Make up your mind, woman. You know, you hid first, but yeah, she's definitely not ready for this world. You know, not happy with what they're going to have to go through. So it was definitely realistic, but kind of annoying as well. So
yeah, I feel like her initial survival instincts kicked in when they walked in, because first thing is you kind of want to hide, you know, watch these people, see if they're trustworthy. But then after that, you know, she kind of got back to herself, and she hasn't been, you know, wanting to live. She was supposed to end it with Morgan, and Mo changed all that, and Morgan kind of just decided for the both of them that they're going to live for the baby, and you know that wasn't something she wanted. So, you know, it kind of put her in a position of like really having to fight to hang on to, you know, wanting to live, even though, you know, her heart aches against it. She just kind of wants to go rest with Athena. But
yeah, it's a tough position that she's in, but you know, Morgan agreed for Grace's sake to end it because she believed her, but then he felt Mo's return was a sign. And then he decides, you know, instead of looking for formula, our dear friend Morgan puts together a Mad Max Pinto, and because it looked like a Pinto, I don't, with some armor on it, and you know, set that up for. Now they're talking about, you know, going, you know, driving for 6 hours on roads, low visibility. They could make it a couple 100 miles, I'd say, in 6 hours. Figure they go 30, 35, maybe 40 on, you know, if they can do it safely. So they could get a couple 100 miles away. What were your thoughts, Tomaj, of the Mad Max compact?
I loved it. But I'm like, they had their masks off again, and I'm like, it gives me anxiety anytime they take their masks off. I'm like, but you know, if he's working on this thing, he had to have the door open and stuff with the radiation that got inside. I'm like, I don't know. That's just what I was thinking. But I liked it. It was cool. He said he stripped it of, you know, unnecessary stuff to help them, you know, preserve gas and move quicker. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and every time they took their masks off, I felt like I was in Walmart. Anyway, Jazz, what were your thoughts about the?
I totally agree with
Tomaj.
Thank you. I didn't want to butcher it. I just didn't want to butcher it. But I mean, I really loved the car. I thought it was awesome. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It gave me anxiety like through the whole episode. When every time they took their mask off, it's like, the cinematography of this episode was so amazing. Like that land with the yellow tint because of the explosion, and it was I mean, eerily beautiful. But I mean, yeah, every time they took off their masks, I'm just like, what are you doing? I couldn't. It drove me nuts. It drove me absolutely crazy. But yeah, I mean, the car was pretty cool. I never put two to two together that it was a Mad Max car, but I was like, okay.
Well, if you watched after the thing and they were talking about it, they were kind of doing an homage to Mad Max. But
yeah, I actually didn't catch the after bit this time, like I normally do. So.
But yeah, every time they'd leave the door open for an extended period of time, I'm like, well, it was radiation proof, but now you got dust, radioactive dust blowing in there. What the hell are you doing?
Right.
It's like, sheesh. It's like, yeah, this is great. You know, it's sealed against radiation. Let me open the door and show you around. And
Exactly.
leave that.
You're letting it all in now, man. I mean, come on.
And then they take their mask off and breathe it all in. I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't know about that. But I guess I did a little research. I guess we're like able to breathe for a small period of time in a radiated area, but they kept doing it constantly. I think when I was strolling through Twitter on Sunday, I think there was an article that said that there will eventually be consequences for people like constantly taking their masks off. So I'm interested to see how that'll play out and what like the effects will be.
And I guess we also have to remember, we have to kind of ignore some of the logicalness of it to preserve the story too.
Suspend disbelief. Yes.
That's the phrase. Yes. Thank you. That was a brain fart.
Yeah. I think there'll definitely be some consequences, but it's funny. He's here with a scientist who knows all this shit, and she's like, oh, we can only last 6 hours, but she's taking off her mask half the time. Yeah, like Tanisha Richards says, the episode was okay, but yeah, exactly, things are such a stretch. Morgan makes a call. What was his job before? It's like, I could see finding a car.
Did we ever really find that out?
Well,
I don't remember.
I mean, in this show, people seem to have skills whenever they need to have skills. Like, going back to the other, the main show, Maggie knows how to hotwire a truck. Yeah, I don't know how to hotwire a truck.
I can kind of believe. She's a little farm girl. I don't, maybe she used to go steal cars. Who knows?
Oh,
or maybe her boyfriend before stole cars and he showed her how he does it, or she caught him doing it. I can believe that one.
Maybe somebody like Rosita taught everybody, because Michonne and Rick hotwired cars back in season 7. So I'm like, maybe something they all learned off screen. I don't know.
It's like, today, class, we're going to learn how to hotwire cars. However, if it has a smart key and a chip, forget it. It's not going to work. You need to find a car before this date. And yeah, it's like they're lucky it wasn't like a newer car that needed like a chip to activate.
I'm glad it had gas in it too. Like, I'm surprised.
And I will say that's what's keeping me from wanting to get those classic cars, is that it's going to be easier to steal.
Well, unless they converted it. I mean, gas goes bad. There's a lot of things in The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, like all the lawns that are mowed. Somehow that happens. Unless there's a lot of deer that come through and chomp on the grass, but you'd see a lot more deer carcasses when, the biters came.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of horses on there too that seem just to be there to die. So,
yeah.
Can we talk about how the horses are just strolling through the irradiation like it's nothing? Like, are they not affected? Like, same with Rufus, he's just running around perfectly fine, living his best life. I'm like, what? Are they not affected? Is this something I don't know about?
I think they're affected, and I just don't think that they made a nice little suit for Rufus. That's just horrible, It's like, yeah, do they not care about their animals? I'd be like, come on. I'd have to put like 6 cats in a friggin' thing and be like walking with them, and they'd be fighting in there, I tell you. They do not all get along. Yeah, and Morgan knows how to like make a special suit for Mo. This is again from Tanisha, but it's like he's got a lot of knowledge that, how do you figure this stuff out? And, he knows what to remove from a car to make sure that it's lighter, but it's not going to, I don't know what he did before, but.
I mean, maybe he took a shop class way like in high school or something. That's believable.
Yeah, he fixed that car up with ease later on in the episode, so, all right.
Yeah, I mean, he did work on John's truck, so, with John in the last thing, so I guess he does have some experience with that, but it's amazing the skills that they have. They always have the skills that they need. Bavarius said I was a little bugged by having to conveniently replace not 1 but 2 tires. but improvising a burrito-shaped baby bag out of a smock seemed pretty easy. Okay. Yeah, it's like the first time when the wheel got bent, they had to take it back to the shop, but did they bring another spare? I don't. Yeah.
I don't know.
So you're driving along through this, you know, wasteland, and you come across the worst foster parents in existence. Yeah, those guys. Tomaj, what was your impression of what were their names? I don't even remember their names because
I don't
It,
remember them either.
it was B and Fred. Yeah,
Okay.
that was. I don't know. They immediately gave me red flags because like I just seen them with Grace, what, about 12 hours ago. So like they clearly have just been out here, it doesn't seem like they have shelter. So I'm like, they're definitely sick and infected. They aren't wearing proper equipment. So I'm like, and then like half their face is exposed. I'm like, something's going on under there. And then they want to take the baby. I'm like, what are you doing? What do you mean? This is your baby. I was like, no, red flags. Mm.
yeah, they were definitely deranged and yeah, skeeved me out. And I'm like, they need to kill these motherfuckers quickly. And Jazz,
Well,
what was your?
it's funny because I actually totally forgot all about them. Like, I until you brought them up, and I'm like, oh yeah, those guys. I had totally. I guess they. Like I said, I was having issues with this episode for many reasons. But yeah, like when they wanted to take the baby, I'm like, that's not your baby. Well, what do you want to do with little Mo? I mean, I tend to watch a lot of crime shows, so I'm thinking the worst possible situation in this form. I didn't like it, and yeah, they needed to die because I trust nobody, trust no one.
Well, apparently they were very affected by grief, and they would rather believe that the baby was out there. Again, this episode was all about the grief. You had Grace's grief, you had B's grief, you had Fred's grief, and there was even some grief, that Morgan was trying to deal with in his happy, optimistic way, moving on, not
Sometimes
replacing
that's the way
Athena.
you got to do it. Just got to keep chucking on.
But he's like, here's a new baby I can pour my love into. It's not Athena. No one will ever replace Athena, but this child is worthy
Poor
as well.
Dwayne. I'm just gonna bring up Dwayne again. Poor Dwayne.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I had to remind myself that Morgan has been through losing a child. So, he probably feels in his mind, if I can get through this, Grace can get through this. But
Yeah.
it isn't the same for, mothers and fathers generally don't react the same way to losing a child. And, that often even splits couples up. Look at Ezekiel and Carol. After, the death of Henry, they split off. So I think sometimes I feel like he was a bit ignorant towards Grace's like grieving process, but I get he was trying to, focus on keeping the family together and, their more immediate problems. But I was just at some moments, I'm like, I feel like he should be comforting her just a bit more.
Right.
But
and I mean, that's the thing I always had to remind myself was everybody grieves differently. But I mean, yeah.
which is a good thing because we don't want Grace, holding herself up, getting a bunch of weapons, and deciding to kill everything that moves to clear things. We don't want her to clear her grief that way. That's a Morgan thing. We'll leave
That's
that
a
to
Carol thing.
Well, yeah, I do agree. I think that Morgan should have been a bit more sensitive to what Grace was going through. But it's also the apocalypse, biters all around, radiation, they're running out of food, they think, and it's all about survival. There are times when you have to take your grief and shove it down and just do what has to be done, or else you're going to die. But of course, Grace seemed okay with that, the whole dying part for most of this. We are getting, Denise says, the acting in this episode was phenomenal. I agree. It was well acted. I mean, it's friggin' Lenny James.
Yeah. He's amazing.
He could,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, the power of his acting could, change the world. No, I mean, he's just a very good actor. The actress, I forget her name, who plays Grace. I mean, she's
Karen
phenomenal.
David.
Yes. Um, she's phenomenal. I'm not that thrilled with her character, but that doesn't mean I can't
Right.
admire the craft, of the actress, portraying that character. It's like, I was like, yo, bitch, shut up, stop whining. This is a child. It's not Athena. Athena's gone, but you need to, get your shit together. And, you know, she aggravated me a bit this episode. It's like she was just giving up. And that kind of
I
annoyed me.
I wasn't really bothered by it. I kind of understood, where she was coming from. Morgan was kind of trying to push this whole family thing on her. Like he's like, you got your 6 hours, it's my turn. Knowing
Mhm.
very full and well she didn't really want to be around the child, but he forced her to stay there, in those 6 hours. He didn't even try to help stop the crying of the baby. He just kind of left her to deal with it. And
That
the baby
yeah, that
cried.
bugged me. I'm like, come on, please.
Right. He left her there, and the baby cried for 3 hours before she finally, played the
Enough
music to the
enough
baby.
to make anybody go nuts. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
So
that was the problem with B and Fred, that they lost. Well, he murdered his child because the baby wouldn't stop crying. So I'm like, this is a mess.
Not quite as bad as A Quiet Place, but yeah, this was it is tough. And yeah, Morgan could have been a little more sensitive. He could have been a little more helpful, but I don't know. It just seems to me Grace confessed her love for Morgan and then said, let's kill ourselves. It's like, whoa, whoa. Can we just bask in this? Maybe have a quickie before we, consummate this relationship a bit. And now, they have something to fight for. And certainly the sub, should be relatively safe because it's insulated from a lot of the stuff. So, I mean, if they could find supplies, which they did, thanks to Mo, they could actually live there. Um, let's see, Rufus ran off. Uh, that was a shame. Baby Rose says, episode was amazing. Baby Mo did amazing with her cries. I don't know how much of that was just. I mean, when the camera was on her, obviously she was crying, but I'm sure some of that was just added in later in post when she was walking around,
For
or else
sure.
absolutely.
I think there's
That
some
or that's a
union rule.
really miserable baby.
Oh,
But yeah,
That poor child.
imagine that it's like you're a child actor, you a baby Mo, you cried that much. Uh, it's like, does that scar a child?
and could you imagine what it would be like on the set if that was how it was the entire time? Because they're gonna have to do take after take after take. Yeah. No. No, thank
And
you.
trying to talk and act over the baby.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, if anyone can do it, those two can do it.
True.
So then we get a mysterious stranger. We know who it is. Let's just talk about it. The brother
Yeah.
of Emil. What did anyone catch what his name was or know what his name is?
I don't think they said, did they?
I don't recall.
But he's back, and I did see someone's like saying this is kind of a little much where you're running into their family members suddenly appear. John's father appears after John dies, and now Emil's twin brother. And Texas is a big state. However, in the case of Emil, he did talk about how what he fed that guy before he killed him was his brother's recipe. He did mention his brother. It could have been in past tense. We didn't know, but apparently they were twins. They stuck together. If Merle didn't go off on his racist tirade and end up getting handcuffed to a roof. Maybe
And
Daryl
losing
Dixon
his
and Merle
hand
Dixon.
thereby.
Yeah. But maybe the Dixon brothers would still be, going strong together. I would have lost my not right-handed man.
Love
Oh
that one.
no, what was it? The left that he lost. So
I don't remember.
my left hand missing man, something like that. I don't know, but anyway, so family could stick together. Doesn't always work out so well. The Grimes family is, except for RJ, is pretty much gone. Yes, there's
Well.
Judith, but she's a Walsh. We all
I
know
was
it's a
gonna say,
Walsh.
honestly, Rick is the only one that's a Grime. That's an official Grime still that's around.
Well,
Ish.
yeah, RJ and then
Allegedly.
RJ and then
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
RJ.
RJ.
RJ's blood related to yeah. So.
That's true.
Judas a Grimes
I
at
feel
heart,
ashamed. I feel ashamed for getting poor little RJ, since I am on a whole tirade about how I need that reunion to happen in the movies so badly.
I need it too. We need some news. Where's the Rick news? I tweet Scott Gimple every week. I'm sure he's tired of me.
Good.
I don't even know if he notices because he probably gets so many tweets. Carrie Petty says, I feel like Grace was just designed to, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. I mean...
That was Lori's idea, so...
Yeah, well... We're not going to talk about Lori. She wasn't bad, though. Anyway, no, the thing is, I think Grace... she lost the baby daddy to radiation. I don't necessarily think Morgan's a rebound. That'd be horrible. But I think that he had some traits and, like within minutes of meeting him, she got him naked. If you remember. And she was washing him down. Remember?
Did she come in season 5?
Yeah.
I don't remember much of season 5. It took me weeks to get through it. I came to the Fear game late, so I was like, I guess it wasn't really a binge because I was watching one every
I just
few
started
days.
last season. I watched all of last season. I haven't even seen the other seasons yet.
If you're blocking out season 5, there's reasons for that.
It's a blur. It's a blur.
It wasn't that good of a season. We did meet Grace. We did have radioactive biters, so we could get a preview of coming attractions. We did get Strand in a friggin' beer bottle balloon. Lots of things happened. The first part of the season, I was like, okay, well, they got these kids that they're trying to save and shit. It was okay. And then second part of the season happened, and it was just like, how many infomercials can you fucking make? It was just not good. And then they went and they got the oil and the gas, and yeah, season 5 was not very good. And then season 6 blew it away.
Season 7 is not really
but I think they're setting up some stuff. Yeah, it's hard where they left us. Everyone's spread out. We don't know what's happening with Dwight and Sherry. We don't know if Sherry is not going to be quite so annoying this season. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where Alicia went to. We don't know where the guys were flown off in the helicopter to. So there's a lot of people we haven't accounted for yet. We've basically seen Strand, Morgan, Grace, and Mo.
I will say, though, if it's going to be like the second part of The Walking Dead season 4, the second half, I'm going to be so mad because they dragged that out, which seemed like forever, where everybody was separated to finally be reunited in season 5. I'll be so mad if they pull that in Fear this season.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I think it'll be similar, but I think what it is going to be a race between Morgan and Strand to find everybody and recruit them to their side. I think that's what's kind of going to happen. But I think before
I
that,
can see
I think we're
that.
going to get to see everybody's individual group and story since they're continuing that anthology style.
And to be fair, it's not really that bad when you're able to binge it and like go through the episodes in one sitting or two. But when you have to wait week after week to find out what happens, like back in the day with regular TV shows, it's a little rattling, in my opinion.
Especially when you watch for like specific characters. Like I know there's like a lot of Alicia fans out there. I pray for them because she hardly has any screen time anymore.
Yep.
So I feel for them.
She's kind of supplanted by Morgan. It's become the Morgan show. And I'm not saying he's not a great actor to lead the show, but yeah, I mean, he wasn't there in season 1. Alicia was there season 1, episode 1. Strand came along in season 1, so it's like we got some season 1ers, and then we got the we're coming over from from the main show to keep Fear afloat, which it probably needed some blood. Of course, they could have come up with some new characters. So, what did you think of the whole thing with Howard showing up? Were they just trying to steal any leftover food? What were they doing in there? And what about the offer to take Grace into the and the baby into, under Strand's protection?
Well, I mean, again, I still don't trust Strand. I know there's a lot of people that absolutely love him for reasons, but I'm just like, as annoying as Morgan can be at times, and let's be real, he can be a little obnoxious when he says, his all life is precious, mumbo jumbo. Then he goes off in another episode and goes, no, we can kill these people, and then he gets back to this. Well, let's skip that whole thing. But to be honest, let's be real here. Grace and Baby Mo are probably in the best. Okay, well, I shouldn't say in the best possible place because, I mean, maybe they're like doctors or something where, I'm sorry?
They could be in Alexandria and starving.
Yeah, exactly, where there's doctors and stuff. But then, it's like, oh, wait, yeah, there was like big explosion, so nowhere's really safe anyway. And I don't trust Strand farther than I can throw him. So, yeah, just stay with Morgan for the love of God, please.
What do you think they were taking?
This is probably weapons, maybe food if they could find it. Anything that could help them survive. I can't imagine them taking money though. Like that's kind of pointless now.
I think it would be protective gear mostly too, because Grace and Morgan seem to have like the best gear on so far that I've seen. So they probably were looking for that.
That's a good point.
Definitely food, because most of the food out there is contaminated, so they definitely need food. And probably survivors, honestly. But he didn't know what Morgan looked like. Until Grace said Morgan's name. He was just like, oh, okay. Because I don't think otherwise he would have even brought them or considered bringing them back to Strand. Like that's how like not interested Strand is in like other people. Like that's how I know like Strand wanting to build a community is kind of just all talk, really.
Well, I think he wants to find people who can benefit Strand. And he's going to be very selective.
So it's kind of like a Negan situation in a way.
People are resources, but he's cotton pick. He's cherry picking his resources. So
I think Strand only wants to get people who are like followers. He doesn't want anybody who's going to challenge his leadership, like Alicia, like Morgan. So he's not going to recruit anybody like that.
Like
even like Will. Even like Will, who kind of was challenging his authority, and then he threw him off the roof. He's not gonna take anything from anybody that anybody's gonna backtalk him or anything. He wants to be completely in charge, and I think that's just because he's been around so many strong leader types like Madison, like Morgan, Alicia, and things don't always go the way he wants them to go, and I think he gets frustrated with that. So I think he's definitely just gonna push out anybody who has any leadership qualities.
Right, and Grace isn't so much of a leader.
No.
So
definitely not.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then of course they Mo starts crawling and happens to find a stockpile of additional food.
That made me so happy. I was like, finally, some hope in this really sad little world that they're living in right now.
Seriously.
And of all things, it's powdered milk. How perfect for a baby, you know?
Well, I mean, I would think that formula has a little bit more than just what's
Well,
in milk.
yeah,
I'm no
but
nutritionist, but I imagine there's a
I
difference between
don't
just
disagree with you, but, you know,
maybe they
at
can
least it's
mash up
liquefied. It can be.
some peaches or something and get her to eat those. People are saying let Strand be Strand. Um, and they would have taken Grace and the baby, but not just the baby. Grimes Girl 26 says, yeah, that's true. And actually, Beaverus, something like that. Actually, that's a really good point. I was just thinking that because they just set up this beacon that's drawing biters all around the base of the tower as like a defensive moat. But how do zombies keep people away? The biters keep people away from the tower, but not prevent people from leaving to go on runs.
Good point.
Yeah, he must have some sort of secret route or exit that maybe everybody there isn't aware of. I don't know if it has like some underground system maybe that they can get out somewhere else. I don't know. But I'm sure there's probably a part of that building that, people who live there aren't allowed to go in, and that's probably the way out.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was some tunnel system that connects to, But look at Howard. I mean, this episode and the previous one, he's drank the Strand Kool-Aid. He is totally on board. Where when he first met Strand, he was like, seemed to be happy that his name was Morgan Jones and he was the good man. And then Strand is like, I am the evil one, I am Darth Vader. I am, Strand reveals himself, and now he's like totally like, well, Strand's the one I want to be with. So,
yeah, he's one of those follower types, and that's exactly why he's Morgan's right hand man, because he's gonna follow, or not Morgan, Strand's right hand man. Now that's why Strand, he likes those type of people, because they'll listen to him. And he's never really been too big in a big of a leadership position, so he's loving every moment of this.
Absolutely,
and he's gonna get anybody like, well, yeah.
I think Virginia gave him a taste of when she decided he was gonna assemble this task force, and then he assembled his task force within a task force to take out Jenny, and so yeah, he got a taste of the power. And he figured when he took out Jenny that he would be running the whole show, not counting on Morgan, being a rival. Yeah, I have a feeling, I had a feeling from the beginning that they would have, a bit of a conflict between them because they're very, very different people. And so, would you say Strand is the villain this episode? Or this season?
I would definitely say yes. I would say yes, he is. Based off just the trailer, he seems to kind of just be like enticing Morgan. He likes, the rivalry. He likes being at odds with people. He likes, living in that thrill of the moment. Like, I don't know. Strand, I don't know. He's a different person. So I don't know. I don't know if he sees himself as the villain, but I don't think he's opposed to being the villain. So
that was what I was going to bring up. It's very hard to classify characters in this universe as villains because they have their reasons for doing the things that they do, even though most of us might not agree with it or see it in a different light. But with that being said, I definitely would say that Strand is being set up as the villain this season for sure.
Well, I think that Strand's got motivations that don't really align with what we would consider noble motivations because he
Correct.
wants to show that he wins. It's like he has to win. You know, I mean, he wants to survive, he wants to be comfortable, he wants to wear his dashing uniform and get fed strawberries, and and he wants people to know it. I'm actually surprised that they left Morgan alive.
Honestly, me too.
Um, but then again, maybe Howard's not so far gone that he was going to kill Morgan and Grace and leave a baby there. And maybe he's like, I don't want to take a fucking baby. It's going to probably cry all the time, drive me nuts.
There you go. That's what I'm saying.
I think much like the situation with Alicia, he wants Morgan and Alicia to see him succeed. He wants them to see, well, mainly Morgan. He wants Morgan to see that his way isn't the only way and that his leadership isn't necessarily for everyone, which is something I actually agree with. I don't think Morgan is the best leader. He kind of isolates everyone. Like
Absolutely.
when he had the well, or what is it called?
The dam.
Dam. Yeah, like June left because she couldn't live with like his like no kill rule because she wanted revenge on Virginia, and so many people did, but he again made a decision for everyone, one that many people didn't agree with, to not kill her. He was gonna let her go, and that kind of just alienates everybody because it's like they don't get a say. So
well, how is that different from Rick having slitting Negan's throat and then having Sadiq patch him up? How is it different from Rick making the decision for everyone to let Negan live?
It's not much different, and I was kind of against it. I enjoyed seeing Negan suffer. I think it was a better punishment, but I think everybody should have had a say in it. It's because he's affected everybody, and he's affected Hilltop and Kingdom much longer than Alexandria suffered. So I think everybody should have had a say. So Rick there was wrong in that situation, but
they could have had a trial. Charged him with, murder and terrorism and all that stuff, and had a jury find him, guilty or not.
Guilty, which he would have been.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
And then decide on the punishment and, basically say, should he be put to death?
Life in prison?
Yeah. Or should it be life in prison? And those are pretty much the options. Either that or make him watch Fear Season 5. I mean, that might be a fate worse than death. But, yeah, Morgan sees the right way in his eyes. And he thinks it should be clear to everyone that that's the right way. And that's the way it's going to be. And, yeah, he isn't the best leader, but I don't know that Strand's management style's the best either. I mean, rejected candidates have a tendency to, come crawling back as biters, after landing.
Have there really been, like, a true perfect leader in this world, though?
Oh, wait, no, I guess not. I guess I had a couple issues.
I mean, yeah, when you think of Rick, you think of the sheriff guy. Yeah, he's the perfect leader type, but he's made some questionable things during his time. So.
Oh, yeah. Going after Portstick Pete like that, and,
Although he did have it coming, but still, yes.
Perfect's such a strong word. Nobody's perfect. In my opinion, I think, and I may be biased, but I think Michonne has been the best leader. She's been the most successful leader in terms of, keeping her community alive and safe and having the least amount of casualties. Yeah. And she's had the least amount of casualties, with, everything being under her leadership. So that's my opinion, but I think she's as closest as it's gotten to perfect. She at least set up a council so where it's not always totally her rule. Now, she did have a way around it, but she still was lenient with people, and she came around, and she had a reason. But versus Maggie, who kind of had Hilltop, like, it's my say. She hung Gregory right in front of everybody and was like, it's my say, it's my decision here. Carol and Ezekiel, they had their, king and queen thing, and everybody respected that. But their community ultimately failed because they wouldn't let go, and realized it was kind of failing, and they, and then, you guys know what happened after that. But
and yet
I think
I
Michonne
smile. And yet I smile.
Yeah. His confidence was kind of his downfall, unfortunately.
Yeah, and like, some areas are not the best for the type of survival that's needed in a post-industrial world. They couldn't make the sanctuary work because nothing would really grow in that area. The soil was too poisoned. But yeah, there was a lot. I hate to admit Michonne was pretty good, but she did have her rather knee-jerk reaction to not letting anyone new in after her friend showed up with the children of the corn to, fuck things up for her. So, and,
I'd argue that was a smart decision, because the moment she went back on that was when What's-His-Face infiltrated from Alpha's group and killed Sadiq. So the moment she changed that and let somebody in, she got proved right. So, I mean, it was morally it was wrong, but tactically it was smart. She was strict, but her strictness is what kept everybody alive.
Yeah, but
and let's be honest, there is no black and white in this world anymore. It's a whole shitload of gray.
Well, I think they just need a much better screening process and a much more, keep an eye on the newbies a little bit more than they did. But yeah, I mean, there's certain people I wouldn't let into Woodbury, especially if they were National Guardsmen. But let's get to the mysterious stranger turned out to be Emil's brother. Is he going to fuck up Morgan, or is Morgan going to fuck him up? That's really the question.
I think it's the former right now, but I mean, Morgan, as we know, has been unstable. So who really knows what mindset he'll end up in and what kind of shit he'll do.
I mean, they're introducing him, so he has to come do some damage. Otherwise, what's the point, right? So I'm hoping, he makes for an interesting, secondary villain. But he didn't really do much when he appeared. Like, he just kind of stood there, and then Morgan threatened him, shot him 3 times. And then he's just like, I don't know. He wasn't dead, so I guess he played dead or was knocked out momentarily. And then he just drove off, didn't even try to run Morgan over or anything. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it seems
he just said I failed today.
A tactically unsound way to approach an enemy, that he's tracking to potentially kill, I imagine. But the thing is, now I understand it's his brother, but I mean, what Morgan did was kind of in self-defense. So, I mean, I understand if someone is if you have a sibling and they make it their business to go out looking for trouble and they find someone who bests them, is that really reason to go after that person and be like, or can you kind of say, well, he died in honorable combat, he's going to Sto-Vo-Kor, the whole Klingon thing, it's like, it's not like Morgan hunted down Emil and decided, I want to kill this guy, or just came across him in the road. He was hunting Morgan Jones, and Morgan defended himself. So it's like,
kill or be killed.
It's like, to me, it's like, knowing that that's what he was doing. I mean, if I was Emil's brother, I mean, I'd have feelings about that. Would I necessarily want to kill Morgan? Or would I want to know just what the fuck happened?
Well, this would be an interesting plot if we got like a little peek inside of their life before maybe the apocalypse, as them as brothers. and see, maybe he's as messed up as his brother is, or it would just be interesting to see their former dynamic before the apocalypse, to get a look inside of like their relationship, I think.
I do wonder if Tales from the Walking Dead, the anthology series, will also touch on characters from Fear and maybe even, the world beyond. Because Tales from the Walking Dead could be anyone, or it could even be characters we've never met before. We might actually.
I think they said it would be both.
So
yeah,
we could have all kinds of stuff. So maybe we'll see Emil and his brother prior to the
Fingers
apocalypse.
crossed. I'd actually like to see some of that. So
as long as they do Rise of the Governor.
The interesting thing about this topic was Alicia kind of went through this, and she chose not to kill Charlie after Charlie killed Nick. So, but Amir, what is his name? Emil, he chose the opposite. He's going for revenge for his sibling. So it's kind of interesting. Even though Charlie, there's a big age difference, but still, I feel like I'd be Emil, and I really wouldn't care if it was my sibling. I would probably go for revenge, but that's just me.
And what is it with the dogs in this universe that have no loyalty? Rufus is now with Emil's brother. Dog decided to go back to, Leah. What is it with these dogs? Come on, man. Morgan was taking care of you, and now you run off, and Morgan hasn't even acknowledged the fact that Rufus is no longer with them. So, I don't know.
I think the last thing, he's seen him running off and he yelled his name, but then he just got focused back on the baby and he was like, yeah, it's whatever.
I don't know. I wouldn't let Morgan do any pet sitting for me. All right.
It was kind of funny in the beginning of the episode. He had Rufus babysitting the baby.
Yeah.
He was like, good job, Rufus. I'm like, oh, what? The dog is babysitting?
That was cute. That was really cute.
Freddie M says, Deanna ran Alexandria pretty good. I think she was lucky because they were going out looking for people. They let people leave. Now, and I've said this before, everyone's like, so you let Michonne leave and then you send people to kill her. It's like, why would you do that? But Rick knew why I did it, because he was like telling Deanna, you let them leave? It's the same thing. Michonne leaves Woodbury. She runs into some people and says, yeah, I was at a town, a few miles that way, and, they've got food and walls and all that stuff, and tells it to the wrong people who might want to break in and take what we have here by force. You don't know who she's going to run into, or if she was going to go and say, I want to take it over myself and go gather people and come back. You don't know. So you kind of protect your community by keeping knowledge of it contained. So, I think that Deanna was very lucky that they hadn't run into any major problems before this. She was trying to be civilized, which is a noble goal. But Rick knew, I knew, Negan knows. It's not a civilized world.
I don't really agree with her choice of letting Porch Dick Pete be Porch Dick Pete, though. I'll just say that much.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that.
She turned the blind eye. It's like, we have a doctor. And it's like, well, you have a doctor who's beaten his wife. You got to do something about that. It's like, force him to get sober. It's like, he might be the doctor, but, how well is he going to doctor? Say, look, we're not going to give you any food if you don't behave. We're going to lock you up until you sober up. And, you have to stay off the sauce. But
I liked what Deanna was going for in terms of like her vision for a community. She just lacked preparedness for the world, but she knew that though, which is why she wanted Aaron to go get people who lived in this world. And she did listen to Rick's notes, but and she did put them in their power positions. But I think
Yep.
if she would have been more prepared and everything wouldn't have went bad so fast, they could have built a place similar to Commonwealth, like where it's civilized. You got your government and everything that she wanted, and then you would have just had your soldiers. If she would have had time to build all that up. And I think we could have had Alexandria look a lot like Commonwealth, but power of the writing, everything has to go to shit all the time.
Here's the question though, like, do we know how long she's been in charge before Rick and crew showed up? Like, I mean, maybe she was just kind of starting building this community the way that she envisioned it to be.
Well, as soon as the dead started attacking, as soon as the biters were there,
okay.
Her husband's the one who came up with the wall idea. But I think they kind of took over from day one.
So they've had enough time then. I'll take that back.
I think because they acted so quickly, they're kind of like Yumiko's brother.
Mm-hmm.
They did not know what the world is like. They don't really know what that's all about. So,
can we get back to that plot too, please? I need to know what's going on there.
Well, we got to wait to February for all that. But yeah, I think they weren't aware, of really what it was like out there. They assumed. See, a lot of people assume, if they're doing the right thing, other people do the right thing.
Correct.
A lot of people who are very trustworthy trust too much. Whereas people who don't trust have a tendency not to trust other people. So I think she was too trusting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rick could have gone in there and killed Deanna with his bare hands and took over if he wasn't the man he was. So she's sitting there basically alone with all these new people, interviewing him one-on-one. Yeah, but who's going to stop, Abraham from snapping a neck? Or, whoever Rick's group wasn't like that, and she was lucky because of it, but, if the claimers came to their door.
Mm-hmm. They'd all be toast.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd play nice, they'd get inside, and they'd take over. And, and like Sonequa was right, those people at that party were like, "Oh, I was concerned you wouldn't like this." It's like, that's your concern? You people had the wrong priorities. That's why so few of the original Alexandrians are still around.
Absolutely.
Right, and they didn't carry weapons inside, so it's like, and the armory wasn't very well guarded. Carol got in with no problem. So I mean, it's like anybody could have.
Oh, Carol's a ninja, though.
True, but I don't think they were trying very hard to protect it. So I mean,
I do agree with that, though.
Yeah, they had no armed guards at all. I don't think, right? Nobody was on the walls or anything.
Nobody that I can recall.
Yeah,
Nope.
I think they needed to. I think what they should have done was distributed the weapons, and everyone should have their weapon that they were responsible for, and then maybe have excess weapons in the armory for, basically make sure everyone had a handgun so they can fight their way to the armory to get the rifles to really do the damage. And then maybe have a tank, though, I haven't had the best luck with those. Anyway, we are running overtime. But yeah, it would have been, Cleo says they were there for about a year. Yeah, they were lucky in that year.
Yeah.
Very.
And it might have been a little bit longer. You never know, because how long did it take me to set up Woodbury? I don't even remember because, I'm not really the fucking governor. And I'm not Robert Kirkman. But yeah, if I heard everyone should have had a personal weapon just in case something happened. But they were playing, and I'm all about gun control in this society. But when you're dealing with the fact that biters could break through the wall, someone could die from pneumonia in their house and come wandering out and start chowing on their neighbor, you need to have protection.
And let's be honest, like, unless you're Eugene, of course, there's only so many bullets, so you need something that you can stabby with.
Yeah, should all have a knife and a gun and know how to use them both.
Agreed, because if it wasn't for Carol, the Wolves would have easily taken them out. They climbed right up the support beams. So
They were defending against spiders, not against raiders, because they didn't think, why would anyone break in here? So anyways, it is time for final thoughts, shameless self-promotion. Jazz, start us off.
So final thoughts. Well, I hope next week's episode's better than the two that I've been watching so far. I have trust in the universe, and I can't wait to see what happens next. You can find me on Instagram at Rose City Widow. Check out Vancouver Master Chorale on Facebook and Instagram. You can also check out the honeybees.sing on Facebook and Instagram, which is a acapella group that tends to do more like trio type stuff, but there's also larger group things that are coming up as well. And I will see you all next week, and enjoy the rest of your week.
All right. Tomaj?
And yep, you can catch me over on Big Bro and Little Sis Reacts, where I do reactions with my little sister. We do the DC shows like Doom Patrol, The Flash, Stargirl, all those shows. We do Star Wars. We're just finishing up Star Wars Rebels, getting into the movies. Over on Patreon, we're doing Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Discovery, as well as Battlestar Galactica. We just started that. Yep, and full reactions to everything we do is over there. Yeah, and you can catch me on Twitter. I tweet my thoughts to things randomly at Tomaj21. And yeah, I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Stick around after I say we're clear. And I am the governor. I am on Fandom Spotlight. And as I announced last weekend, I'm not reacting to this season of Fear, but I am going to be putting out compilations of other people. So, look forward to that. Tomorrow on Fandom Spotlight, we have the VCR Redux crew doing Monster Squad 2 at 9. But before that, we have some people talking about Dune. Dune, yes. That will be at 7 tomorrow Eastern on the Fandom Spotlight channel. We have some more stuff coming out. As far as videos are concerned, check out also Toy Spotlight if you like Transformers, Legos, and other toys. And if you haven't already, subscribe. If you want to give us a super chat, we love those too. But thanks everyone for showing up, and appreciate all of you watching. We will see you next week. Governor and his amazing crew out.